Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Did I hear an ach over there? So we're in a very interesting sugya. In fact, easy stuff. But today we have a lot of agadata. 3/4 of today's daf basically is agadata. Easier than easy. So we're holding in the middle of the sugya that you cannot, our Mishnah tells us, you don't do kisi adam, you don't cover the blood of a carbon. The only carbon that it's available for is a bird, because the other type of animal that you cover the blood is a chaya. There are no chayas in the Beis Hamikdash. You only bring a behema in the Beis Hamikdash. You don't bring a deer ever in the Beis Hamikdash. So for the bird, the Gemara goes on to explain why you can't do kisi adam. You can't add anything to the mizbeach, so you can't leave it on the mizbeach. If it's not part of the mizbeach, then it's a chatzitz of the mizbeach. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Why don't you sprinkle it on the mizbeach, then peel it off, literally to scrape the blood off the knife. But the Gemara says, why don't you sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, then call the zakatim in, peel it off, put it on a pile of dirt, and cover it, and then you'll be yaitza the kisi adam. So the Gemara says, because we're not talking about korbanos. We're talking about kachi bedekabayis, which are animals that are designated for the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash. People donate stuff to the Beis Hamikdash. They could donate, cars for kids. They'll donate cars, planes, and animals. And when you donate an animal, it's to be sold, and the money goes to, you went ahead and you shechted it. You had no right to shecht it, and therefore, the Gemara says, and this is important for what we're about to learn now, if it's a type of shechita that doesn't allow you to eat, that Reb Shimon already holds, and we had a few times already in the last few daf that Reb Shimon holds, if you can't eat after that shechita, it's not a good shechita. It's not a shechita that needs kisi adam. Yeah? You have an animal that's owned by the Beis Hamikdash. You went ahead and you shechted it. What were you thinking? You're not going to be able to eat it. It's also ba'ana. It's owned by the Beis Hamikdash. So that shechita doesn't accomplish eating, and if it doesn't accomplish eating, then you don't have to cover its blood. As the Gemara, top of Peidal Amud Aleph, we're just going back a few words. V'lefrikinu v'lechasinu. So what if you shechted it illegally? Redeem it, and then go ahead and cover it. You can do kisi adam. Says the Gemara, bi'inon ha'amoda v'haracha. You need to be able to, in order to redeem something from the Beis Hamikdash, you have to stand it up on its feet, and then you have to give it an appraisal. And guess what? Most of the time, when you kill an animal, it can't stand on its feet. So if it can't stand on its feet, you can't do an appraisal. End of story. You can't appraise it. If you can't appraise it, you can't redeem it, and you're stuck with an animal that you can't eat. So the Gemara says, Ukiman. Let me show you this very, very simple chart, but it makes the whole sugya so easy. There are two things that we're going to be discussing. Shchita she'eina ru'uya. If you shecht something and it doesn't accomplish that you could eat it, according to Reb Meir, it's green. What does green mean? It's still good shchita. According to Reb Shimon, I just explained before 2 minutes ago, according to Reb Shimon, it's red. If it doesn't accomplish eating, shchita she'eina ru'uya, it's red, it's no good. And then we just discussed Hamada B'Haracha. Hamada B'Haracha means, do you need to stand it up on its feet and give it an appraisal? The Gemara says, yes, you need to give it an appraisal. Says the Gemara, wait a minute, we're talking about in what shita over here? The two things don't go together. It's either green and red or red and green. Nobody says red and red. You're telling me you need two things. You need that it's a shchita that's no good, and also you need to be able to appraise it. But if you're Reb Meir, you only hold one of those two things, and if you're Reb Shimon, you only hold one of those two things, the opposite. So what do? We don't have anybody that holds two reds. Iker Meir, Ukaman, Iker Meir, the Amar Kol Hoy B'Chlal Hamad V'Aracha, the Hamar Shchita Sheina Ruya, Shma Shchita. If it's Reb Meir who says that you must have an appraisal, he's the one that says it's okay if you have a Shchita that doesn't accomplish eating. It's green. The whole answer of the Gemara is, the reason why we don't do Kisi Adam is because you did a Shchita that you can't eat from it. But of course, Reb Meir, it's not a problem. So what if you can't eat from it? He still requires a Kisi Adam. Ikir Reb Shimon, and if you hold Reb Shimon on the left side, He holds, in fact, that if you can't, that was the whole sugya. Remember, we had even a Mishnah that if it's a treifa, you find out it's a treifa, it's not considered a good shchita. There was a shchita that said in Reb Shimon that when it comes to a carbon, there's never shchita that's roy. In all karbanas, no shchita is roy. Because you have to do zrikas adam right away. All sugya we had. So according to Reb Shimon, shchita shein ruya, red. But he holds, you don't need to do haracha, you don't need to do an appraisal. Bedek habayis doesn't need, you don't need to do an appraisal, and therefore you could redeem it. If you can redeem it, what's the problem? Why can't you do kisi adam on an animal that was designated for bedek habayis, for the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash? Says the Gemara, check this out. Here, now in the chart, it's super easy. Let me show you what we did here. Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the one who wrote the Mishnah, he basically picked and chose. He took one of each. So he has two reds. You're asking me, well, who's the Tana that holds two reds? It's Rebbe. He took one red from Reb Meir, one red from Reb Shimon, and boom, now he has two reds. He holds Shchita Sheina Ru'uya is not a Shchita, and he also holds and he's the one that wrote the Mishnah, and therefore he wrote in the Mishnah that when it comes to Bedek HaBayis, there's no Kisei Adam. It goes according to Rebbe, and he went according to the Tanai. When it comes to Shchita, that's not, you can't eat from it, he holds like Reb Shimon, that's considered not a good Shchita. But when it comes to doing an appraisal, something like Reb that you don't have to do an appraisal. That's why in the Mishnah, you don't need to do Kisei Adam. You could say the entire Mishnah goes like Reb Shimon, what's the question, Rabbi Yisai? Why don't you do Kisei Adam? Why don't you cover the blood of Kachim? You could go ahead and redeem it. Says the Gemara, no. Anytime you need another step, that's not good. You need to be able to cover the blood immediately without taking another step. V'shafach, you spill the blood. V'kisan, you cover it. That's because you don't have to do an additional step. But this Kachim animal, Pediya b'kisu. You have to do this extra step of redeeming it after the shchita, before the kisei adam. Then it doesn't require kisei adam. So the Gemara says, once you're saying this idea that you shouldn't have to do an extra step, yesterday we switched gears. We said we're not talking about a carbon. We're talking about an animal that belongs to the bedek habayis, to the tzedakah portion of the Beis Hamikdash. No, Kachim Mizbeach, we could also say that's talking about Kachim Mizbeach, that's a regular carbon. Misha Einoi Mechusar El Shvicha Vekisui, Yatzazesh Mechusar Shvicha Grira Vekisui. So that's why we can't be talking about a carbon, because what was your question? You should be able to scrape it off like a Zaka person. Scrape off the blood and cover it. No, that's the extra step. Kisei Adam does not require any steps. After you do the Shchita, you cover it. If you have to do an extra step of scraping, then you don't do Kisei Adam. And one more teretz before we get to the Agadata. Marbar Rashi Omar Kro Chaya Oy Oif. It says in the pasuk that what requires Kisei Adam? A wild animal, a chaya like a deer, or a bird. Machaya eni kodesh, afoif eno kodesh. So here's where Rebbe knew to say that a bird cannot be a carbon because it's like a chaya. Just like a chaya, which it says right together with the bird, and a chaya is never a carbon, so to a bird is not a carbon. There's no kisei adam by a carbon bird. So if so, chaya can never be a carbon. So a bird also. But since pigeons could be a carbon, maybe they shouldn't be chayav in kisei adam at all, ever, even when you are shechting it at home. Chicken, okay, but maybe pigeons you should never have to do kisei adam. Loi, kechaya, ma chaya loy chalakta bo. All wild animals are chayav in kisei adam. Afoif, like loy tachlik boy, don't make any distinctions in birds. There's no difference between a pigeon and not a pigeon. All birds are chayav in kisei adam, just like all chayas are chayav in kisei adam. And here starts the Agadata. Omar le Yaakov Mina'a l'Rava. So you know right away by his name that this is going to be a lot of fun. His name is Min. Min means a kaifer. He was starting out with Rava. Yaakov Mina, the heretic, was trying to find, a hole in the Torah. He says, we know that it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that a deer has certain simanim. You go by the Mafres Parsa, Malagera, it chooses its cut, all that stuff. It doesn't say by Chai, it only says the whole Behema Mafres Parsa. We learn it from the Behema. So he asks him, so maybe, if that's the case, all cows and all goats and sheep should require Kisei Adam just like a Chaya. If the Torah doesn't say that what the siman of a Chaya is in order to eat it, and you're learning from a Behema, so you should learn Behema from a Chaya. So just like you learn a Chaya from a Behema for siman, you should learn Behema from a Chaya, that you should do Kisei Adam. Omar Lei says, okay, interesting question. But there's a pasuk. Ala Aretz Tishbechenu Kamayim. Here are the psukim. It talks about the blood, and then it says, you should not eat blood. Now, is blood asur b'hana? When you have blood in a shlachtos, is it asur b'hana? Mafitom. No way. So why does it say you should spill it on the floor? What's the difference where you put it? Why do you have to spill it on the floor? Sell it to a non-Jew. I don't know what. Why sell it to? I'm sure there's factories today that use the blood. They make fish food from it, all sorts of stuff. Food coloring. Okay. Yeah, really? Okay. Something. I think they use it for fish food also. So they can use every part. Why do you have to spill it on the floor? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Treat it like water. Just like you don't cover water with dirt. So you don't have to cover the blood of a behemoth. Says Gemara, you're telling me that blood of an animal is just like water? Imagine making a mikvah out of blood. You should be toivel. You should be able to be toivel in a mikvah made out of blood, and we know that that's not the case. No, you're right. It's a good question, but the Torah tells us only water. You're right. Maybe it's the other liquids, like juices, all the other liquids that don't work for mikvah. But maybe blood should work for mikvah. Why? Because the Torah compares it to water. So the Gemara, okay, good question. This is not Yaakov Mina. This is the Gemara asking questions. There's in fact two psukim that tell us this. It says in the pasuk, Mayon Mayim, Ubar Mayim. One is to say that other liquids are not good for the mikvah, and one is to say that blood in specific is not good for a mikvah. Says Gemara, but wait a minute, maybe within other liquids there's two types of liquids. Zoichelin means, and I'm going to show you a beautiful video that they did, mamish, top. The halacha is as follows. If you have a mikvah, let me show you the picture first, then I'll show you the video. At least we'll use the picture before I show you the video. If you have a mikvah that is, how many saw does a mikvah have to have? 40 saw. So if you have a majority of the saw, you have 21. Majority of half. Not majority. Majority of 50, you have 51% of the mikvah. 21 saw. And you go and you fill it up with zoichel, and you go fill it up with water. That's mayim shuvim, water from the sink. But it crawled, so to speak, on the floor. It's what? We call it zoichelin. It goes on they even do it today in mikvahs. They have like a pipe that's not horizontal, a horizontal pipe, horizontal like piece of concrete, and the water goes, float, and then goes into the mikvah. Just in case it's shuvim, so it goes like that. So this would be kosher for a mikvah. If it's the water, if you have more than 51% of make shamim in the mikvah, I could get 19 saw out of sink water as long as it moves on the floor. I'm going to show you a video here. Let's just show it now. So I would think that with juice, let's say apple juice, you could also get it too. It's great. Look how beautiful this is, Shmuel. The Austria. It's showing you Zoichel in here. And it fills up to 40 saw, it's kosher. So I would think the same thing with apple juice, that should be kosher. That's why I need a pasuk to say no. So the Gemara is saying, who told you that one statement in the Torah is telling you juices are no good for the mikvah, and the other one is telling you blood? Maybe both are going for the juices, for the mashkim, but two halachas in the mashkim. One is telling you zoichalin, excuse me, is no good. And the other one is telling you stationary, it's there. Or, you could say the opposite. One is to tell you mechunasim, and one is to tell you zoichalin, which is a bigger thing. Okay. Says Gemara, you're right. In fact, there's three limudim in the pasuk, mayim, which would tell us that it can't be zoichalin, it can't be moving water on the ground. Ubar mayim, which would tell us that mechunasim is no good. And mikveh mayim to tell us that blood is no good. Tan Rabbanon. So here's the question, Rabbi Isai. When are you allowed to eat meat? I'm not talking about the 9 days. It's mamish hashgacha pratis that we're in the 9 days talking about meat. But in general, on a Monday night, you want to eat a steak. Is it okay? Is there any concern at all? Are there any issues? So basically what the Gemara is going to go into is really what you could afford. It has to do with affordability more than anything. If somebody could afford it every night, so at the end of the day, you could eat it every night. Is there any issue with that? So we're going to see. Says the Gemara, Asher Yotzud, Einli El Asher Yotzud. It seems that from the pasuk, if you're talking about the pasuk of Kisei Adam, it says, V'ish ish mibnei Yisrael. Yotzud, he trapped, he hunted. Why is it talking about hunting? Only if you hunted it. How do you know you need Kisei Adam if you already have it in your farm? Like ducks, geese, and chickens. It's a double lashon here in this pasuk. Yotzud seid. So says the Gemara, so then why does the Torah go into hunting? You should always pretend that it was hard for you to get. So if you have a whole farm, you shouldn't just go and eat it. You should pretend it should be as if you had to go out and it was hard for you. Why? So Rashi right away explains, don't worry about it. Rashi explains that the issue is that you shouldn't become poor from it. Don't eat so much meat that it's going to make you poor. The Torah gives us permission. It used to be that you couldn't eat meat unless you were bringing a carbon. That was in the midbar. But then the Torah tells us, you're going to come into Eretz Yisrael, and then let's see the pasuk, because it talks about basar taiva. I want to eat meat because you have the desire to eat it. You can eat as your heart desires. So says the Gemara, if you have a great desire, then you could go eat meat. Interesting. It almost seems like from this line that if a person is satiated, he ate a good dinner, he had a lot of pizza for dinner, and then he goes to his friend's house and he sees a good steak on the table, you shouldn't really eat it. It's when you have a big taiva for it, then you could eat it. I'm not passing, I'm just throwing out what the Gemara says at this point. Maybe you could go and just get it from the marketplace. You should take it from your own. In other words, you have it. Again, it's all within that same idea that it shouldn't make you poor. So you have it ready, so then you can go eat it. Maybe you should just shecht. You have one cow left, shecht it up. The mem, from what you have, not all of it. So now he says like this. You get lefasai litra yarak. If all you have to your bank account is 1 mana, you have 100. So what do you put in your pot? Vegetables. You're going to be eating vegetables, or boys, it goes by how much money you have. Asara mana, what if you have 1,000? You got lefasai litra dagim. Now you could already eat salmon. Now you're good. Chamishim mana. What if you have 5,000? You got lefasai litra basa. Now you can eat meat. In other words, meat is more expensive than fish. So you can put in your pot even meat. So it goes in. If you're not that wealthy, eat vegetables. If you're wealthy, eat fish. If you're super wealthy, then you can eat meat. We're concerned about you not losing your money. There's some very nice ideas here that Klal Yisrael really should take on. We'll see soon. So these guys, sorry. Mea mana, if he has 100 mana, Yishbesu loy, if he has 10,000, 10,000, Yishbesu loy g'der b'chayim. He can eat meat every single day. And there's other guys, these nebachs, the guys that only eat fish and they eat vegetables. They're Shabbos, Shabbos. They should eat their fish only once a week. We should listen to Reb Elazar ben Azariah. It's not fair. Rav came from a very healthy family, strong people. If you should take whatever money you have and buy meat. You need it. You need the nutrition. If a person's like Rav, as strong as Rav, he wasn't a weakling. And he says over here, we're kind of weak. Rav is strong, but we should eat a lot of meat. We should spend our last dime to buy meat. You hear this? This could be Romanians' motto. Worse than this. We're so weak, you should borrow money to buy meat. Now you're less than, go into debt for this. Says the Gemara, now we're going to be darshaning these psukim. The sheep for your clothing. From the wool of the sheep, you should have clothing. The Gemara is giving us real estate advice. I don't think it applies today. That you should always sell your real estate and buy sheep. Sell your real estate. You should never sell your sheep and buy real estate. You should have parasa from the milk. He says, don't shecht your goats, but milk them. Just keep on milking them so you have income. Listen to this. Your bread comes before those of your children. First, take care of yourself. Make sure that you're in good shape. You're in good shape, then you can help your child. And don't take this out of context. I didn't say don't help your kids and don't do it. I'm saying there's a limit, I don't want to be the Musa guy. The first thing that came to my mind is like when people take their kids to Kiddush and they're like 14 years old and they're pouring them l'chaim. You're teaching them how to drink liquor. It's a big thing here in America. These young teenagers, they drink more than the adults. So their heritage is don't teach your son how to drink wine and eat meat. If you want to become very wealthy, so Taisus right away asked the question over here. The top Taisus. The famous Gemara that says that you don't have atzlacha when you work with small animals. I remember also there was another concern that your animal is going to go steal, but Taisus doesn't say that. Maybe I'm completely off. But he says it's ein hara, people see it. You have these animals in a place where nobody sees them, then that's the big zgula of making money. These animals can make you very wealthy. There are people, I once spoke about it, the people that have those big ranches, they're worth billions of dollars, literally. Because every one of these animals is worth thousands of dollars and they have hundreds of, so says the Gemara, if you have the option of drinking a cup of something from a witch, you should drink from the witch and not from a cup that's warm. You hear this? You have two options. So we have a video of it. I'm going to show you the video at the end. But that's when you're drinking out of metal. But if you're drinking out of earthenware, it's not a problem. In other words, the Gemara understands that drinking warm water is very dangerous for the body. It's only when you don't put in the different spices. But if you put the spices in, it's not a problem. So the Gemara, when you didn't boil it up, listen to this, Rabbi saying. This is important. This is going to get to a lot of people. This applies to, sport, to athletes. Athletes that make a lot of money suddenly, people that win the lottery, and people that inherit a lot of money. It's always an issue. And you see, go do some research. The people that win lotteries, most of the time, they lose all their money in a very, very short amount of time. And the Gemara tells you how to do it. If you want to meaning, if you want to be a shaita and not take care of your finances, this is what you do. Right away, go out and buy custom-made suits. You should use. So if you inherit a small fortune, what do? Wear all these very, very expensive designer clothing. You should buy these beautiful watches, these glass kalim. Hire a lot of workers. Let's say you're doing a renovation in a place. Don't come check up on them. Let them do their own thing. What does it mean that you're going to wear this cotton clothing, very expensive Roman clothing? What does it mean you're going to use glassware, white? Don't drive a glass car. It's when it's white. And when you hire workers and you're not with them. This is referring to with bulls, the novice value, you can lose a lot of money. Sometimes you say in the name of Rabami, sometimes in the name of Rabasi. That what? A person should live under his means. It's a big, today in Klal Yisrael, it's a big disease, it's a big krankheit that people live above their means. Why? Because you always have to, you're living for the other guy. You're not living for yourself so much. So you live above your means. You're buying the newer car, you're buying the nicer house. It's always above the means. Less than what he could afford. But you should, when it comes to keeping your body safe from the elements, then you should buy clothing that exactly what you could afford. So there's three categories here. It's living below your means, but for clothing with your means, and for your wife and your children above. Don't let them know this. Don't ever tell your wife and your kids about this Gemara, but that's what it says over here. You should give your wife and children more than your means. Why? Because they are dependent on you. But the father, the husband, you are dependent on the Rebbeinu Shleilam. So don't worry about it. First take care of them. If you take care of them, you give them more than what they need, Hashem will pay you back. So here we go. Rav Eina stood there by the doorway of the Rish Galus, and he said a drasha. He said, listen to this. On Shabbos, to do Kisi Adam, we said is a problem. Why is it a problem? It's a Chil Shabbos. But if you have to shecht anyway on Shabbos, why? Because you have a sick person. So then you're permitted to do the Kisi Adam. Amalu Rabba. What he said is something that doesn't make any sense. There's two pshatim here. I like the gentler one, and that is, he doesn't deserve to have somebody speak for him and make, to be the Tana, to say it loudly. When he speaks softly, somebody says it loud. How could he say something like this? That on Shabbos you should do Kisi Adam? The sign Reb Eli Yomer koi ain't shakta noisa b'yomtiv. Reb Eli says we learned that a koi, that's an animal, that the mother or the father is a chaya, and the mother is a behema. It's a combination of a chaya and behema, and we have a suffix what it is. And if you went ahead and you shechted, do not cover its blood. And he says Reb Yosi a kal v'chomer. This is Reb Yosi's kal v'chomer. So pay attention. Remember this. What's the kal v'chomer? If you have a milah that the kid was definitely born on Shabbos, that is bris milah on Shabbos. But when you have a suffix when this kid was born, whether he was born before Yontif or after Yontif, in other words, he's born on a day, better shmoshes, where it come out as bris milah is on Yontif or maybe not on Yontif. I don't know. So what do? You don't do a bris milah. You hear? In other words, if you know for sure that the baby was born on a Shabbos, so you do a bris milah on Shabbos. That we know. That's vada. But if a baby is born 7 days before Yontif, but by ben hashmashas, and I don't know if he was born where the bris milah should be on Yontif, or maybe the bris milah should be after Yontif. That's a suffix. You don't do a bris milah on Yontif. So how in the world, says Reb Yosi is the one that says that a koi, if you shecht a kvi or a koi on Yontif, you don't do kisi adam. And he says a kavachaymer. Now what? If milah that pushes off Shabbos when you know for sure, but when you don't know for sure, it doesn't even push off Yontif. Kisui she'ein vadoi doich Shabbos. So these are the words that we're looking for. What does it say? Kisi Adam, when you know for a fact that you should do Kisi Adam, does not push off Shabbos. So how come Rav Eino said at the entrance of the Reish Golos that when you shecht an animal on Shabbos because you're supposed to, because it's Pikuach Nefesh, then you should do Kisi Adam. When it says specifically here, Vadoi is not pushing off Shabbos. She'ein Vadoi doich Shabbos. And then she'ein tzveika doich Yontif. So certainly a kvi, a koi that was shechted on Yontif, you shouldn't push it off. It's a question on Ravena, and that's why you should either cut out his tongue, as one of the pshatim in Rashi is, or take away his speaker. I'll call upon him. So he said, no, but I have a raya from Tkiyah Shofar outside the Beis HaMikdash. What's the problem with Tkiyah Shofar outside the Beis HaMikdash? We don't blow shofar on Shabbos outside the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because maybe you'll go and schlep the She'ein vado doich Shabbos. If you know for a fact that today is Rosh Hashanah and happens to be Shabbos, you don't blow shofar on Shabbos. Usveika, and we're going to see what that means. It basically means that if you're not sure if this person is a woman or a man, doich Yontif, you should blow on Yontif. So your kavachomer is not a good kavachomer, because sometimes you see that a vadai pushes off Shabbos, and a suffix also does. Hezer Reb Elazar kaper b'ribi tshuva. And Reb Elazar said an answer to Kavachomer Reb Yosi. We're going to finish in 2 minutes because I gotta say another shir here before Chatzais. Mala Mila shken inen neges b'leili yovim tovim. You know what? Mila has a very weak thing about it. You don't do a Mila at night. Here it says ubayoyim hashmini. Only during the day you do Mila. Tovim v'kisoy but kisi adam shenoi b'leili yovim tovim. Maybe you can't bring a Kavachomer from Mila to Kisi Adam, because Kisi Adam has something that's more chamor than Mila. You can do Kisi Adam at night. This Kavachomer Reb Yosi, I had no answer to it. And Reb Elazar had a great answer. Says the Gemara, now the Gemara just finishes this question. It says Mefurish that Kisi Adam, you should not do Kisi Adam when it's certain that you do it. In other words, isn't it talking about our case that you have a chayla, so you shecht it on Shabbos, but you shouldn't do kisi adam on Shabbos? So the Gemara, who told you? Maybe it's talking about that he just didn't listen and he shechted on Shabbos, and therefore you should maybe do kisi adam. Do me the mila? No, it should be similar to mila. Now what? Don't me as kisi jay vadoy doich Shabbos, ma vadoy kisi doich Shabbos, lava shechut l'chol b'Shabbos, v'dum the over b'shachar, do me the mila, mal mila b'shos, af kisi na b'shos. No, it's talking about like mila. Mila is optional. In other words, it's not b'shos, not an isser. Okay, kisinami b'shos. It's not that you're over and you did it. Mila means you're not over. You have to do it. You should do it. So kisi also, not that you went ahead and you shechted without permission. You know what? So we'll stop over here. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day, a meaningful fast, And Beis Hashem, we should see the Binyan Beis Hamikdash b'meheira.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shiur today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.